Hello, thank you for joining in. In this second episode of our tutorial, we are going to learn about the sequence function in R. Sequence function is very important in R and it can be used for a variety of purposes. For example, as the name suggests, you can generate a sequence of numbers. You can also generate a sequence of days, time, and so on, right? So before we dive in actually into the sequence function, there are some different ways in which you can still generate sequence in R, one of which it is the colon operator. So for example, if you write 1 is to 10, it gives us the sequence of first 10 numbers. So this colon operator is basically, it tells that generate a sequence from 1 to 10, right? So you can also do 3 is to 8. So it generates a sequence from number 3 to number 8, right? So let's get into the sequence function. So first let's read the documentation of sequence. Okay, so it reads as generate regular sequences, and basically if you check the parameters which goes into the function, first one is the from parameter, so from where you want to start the sequence. The second is the to parameter, till where you want the sequence. The third is the by. This is increment of the sequence, like how you want to generate the sequence, right? So for now, this information is enough. Let's generate some sequences using this sequence function. So first is sequence without any parameter. Let's try this sequence. It generates only one number of sequence 1. So how does this work? So basically if you check the documentation here, it says that the from parameter is by default 1. The to parameter is by default 1 as well, right? So when you write a sequence function without any parameters, it takes from and to argument as 1 and generates a sequence of only one number, right? Now what if you do sequence of 10? It generates the first 10 numbers. So by default it takes the from argument as 1 and to argument as 10, right? So if this is weird, like for example the first parameter, if we check the documentation, the first parameter is from and the second one is to. So are we not mentioning here that that start the sequence from 10 without any to argument? Then how does it generates the first 10 numbers? Yes, so this has been answered in the documentation. If you scroll down, so these are the typical usages of sequence function. So one which we are using is sequence from, right, where we are just providing only one argument. So this has been described here. The fifth form, this is the fifth, right? 1 2 3 4 5, right? The fifth form. So this has been described here. The fifth form generates the sequence 1 2 till length of from as if argument along with had been specified, unless the argument is numeric of length 1, right? So in this case, this is numeric, the argument is numeric and it's of length 1, right? When the argument is of length 1, it is interpreted as 1 to from, right? Even for sequence 0 for compatibility with S, using either sequence along or sequence length, right? So this has been described here. That's why whenever you give just one number, so it interprets it as from sequence 1 to 10, right? As mentioned, if you also write sequence 0, it will interpret as 1 to 0, right? So this has been described in the documentation. So now let's find out different other forms. We can also do sequence 1 of 10, which is again the same, generates the same 10 digits. Not necessarily every sequence starts with 1, right? So we can also generate sequence from 3 to 12, right? It generates a sequence from 3 to 12. And also it's not necessary that it has to be in incremental order. It can be also in descending order. So you can do sequence 12 to 2, say. So it starts from 12, ends at 2, right? Which can also be done with the colon operator here, right? Now let's try using the by argument, right? So we can generate a sequence 4 to 50, and the by argument is at the steps of 2. So if you check the output here, it generates output with steps of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, right? You can also do sequence 4 of 50 of 7. So it has generated the output with the steps of 7. And not necessary that it should be, the numbers should be integers. You can also use decimals if you want. So for example, sequence 0 to 1 at the step of 0.1, right? So it generates all the sequence from 0 to 1 with a step of 0.1, 0, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and so on. So another example could be sequence 5.2, let's say 7.9 with a step of 0.3 maybe, right? So it generates the sequence from 5.2 to 7.9 with steps of 0.3. So it keeps on adding 0.3 from each number, right? So this is done with numbers. Now we can also generate sequence with dates. So how do we do that? So let's say sequence, as it should be a date object, therefore we are using date object and not characters. 2018 0101. Okay, this is from argument, this is to argument, 2018 0101. Okay, now if you do this, it will give you an error because this is a date argument, and then you need to specify how you want to increment, right? So return as such that if you want to generate a date argument, you should always specify the by parameter. So if you do this, it generates the sequence of 1 day. So let's move this to 10 maybe, right? So sequence of 10 dates, right? Then you can also do 3 day. So it starts at 1st Jan 2018, the second is 4th Jan 2018, the third is 7th Jan, and so on till 10th, right? You can also do 1 week. Let's change the date to 0105. So this is, the increment is every week. So it starts with 1st Jan and then generates a date which increments every week. So for example, this happens 1st Jan, then 8th of Jan, 15th, and so on, right? You can also include multiple weeks, right? You can also go ahead and use month. Cool, right? Like so many options you can do. Use multiple months. Use years, 1 year. Let's do this 28. Right, so generates a sequence for every year. Also multiple years. Every 2 years. Oops. Every 2 years this sequence generates, right? Apart from that, we can also generate sequence of time series object, like for example s.POSIXcity 2018 0101, and right, this is the from argument. Now this is the to argument till let's say 2 o'clock, and the by argument is 2 minutes. Okay. So we can also generate a sequence every 2 minutes, 1, 1, 2, 1, 4, and so on, right? This can also be done as 1 hour, sequence every hour, sequence every 2 hours. So an additional thing which I want to specify is the length.out argument. So length.out argument is basically the desired length of the sequence. So if we specify the length.out argument, we can tell like what is the length of the sequence which we want. So for example, let's say sequence is 100 and we do length.out is equal to 10. So it will generate 10 numbers starting from 100 with a step of 1. So these are the 10 numbers. We can also specify the from and to argument. So we do not know the step which we want to take, but we know that it should start from 5 and end at 20, and we want in total, let's say 5 total. So it will automatically divide it into steps. So the starting is 5, the ending is 20, and based on the length.out argument, it will automatically divide the sequence into the desired length. Also, sequence 10 to 100 and length.out argument is 10. So at the steps of 10, it will automatically generate a sequence. So I hope this tutorial was useful for you and you learned something new about the sequence function in R. If you have any feedback, any comments, please let me know in the comment section. See you soon in the next video. Till then, bye bye.